Welcome to the D6 Family Ministry Podcast, a place where ideas, principles, and personalities come together to give you a ministry advantage that empowers the church and home.
I don't know anything more important in our society or in the kingdom of God than to help the church, help the family.
Discipleship is not an event, it's a way of life.
And one day it just hit me that discipleship at home was not about doing more. It was about inviting Christ into what we were already doing.
The goal of family ministry is not families sitting on the couch holding hands and singing Kumbaya. The ultimate goal is families that love God, love people, and make disciples of all peoples.
So that's why you're here. You're here to say 1 hour a week, as significant and as awesome as it is, we know that it's not enough, and we want to be intentional with every hour.
You're listening to the D6 Podcast. Here are your hosts, Marianne Howard, Ron Hunter, and Josh Wooten.
Wow, Derek, you and I get the chance to jump in and be different hosts for the podcast. I'm excited because we're talking about the D6 2023 conference that just concluded. We had a number of people say, hey, we'd love to do a reflection episode. And I thought there's no better person to jump on and do it than you and I, and kind of look at this, because we see this from different perspectives. We both have different roles. Let me tell them about your role. You can share, and then you can tell them about my role any way you want to, and I'll share, and we'll just go from here. But let me brag on this guy to all of you for just a moment, because Derek's been with our organization now. First of all, it feels like he's been here for several years, because it's like a perfect fit with our team. I mean, we have a leadership team with incredible chemistry that I wouldn't trade anything for. Derek is internally in our organization director of events and director of development. So his goal is to oversee every event that we put on, regardless of what it is, whether or not it's for adults, teenagers, young people, whatever it is. And Randall House and D6 Family Ministry does multiple events every year. But he also is in charge of helping to raise funds for us as a nonprofit organization. Then when we go to these events, it depends on which event it is as to what his title is. For example, we do a much bigger conference in July that's bigger than D6 by 4 times over in a normal time, non-pandemic years. And he's the director of that. I mean, it's his event to lead and direct, and he just kills it. And but when he comes to D6, there's got to be so many people involved. It while it's not as big as the other event, it's got far more moving parts. And he is our D6 conference coordinator. And the way I always say it is, this is the guy that is handling a bazillion details. And we kind of divide that out as everything that happens outside of main stage. He's making sure it is running smoothly. And it's just incredible. So, Derek, here's my first question to you. Give us your favorite moments or moment. We probably have to break this up, but where did your mind go when you say, okay, here's the first thing I want to share with everybody, and looking back?
Yeah, I will answer your question. But first of all, this was my third D6 as the conference coordinator, and it's just as special to me, my third one, as my first one was.
I hear you.
I was telling one of our team members recently, there's something magical, and I don't say that because we're in Orlando,
Yeah.
But there's something magical about entering the main stage room for that very first general session, and the band striking the first chord, and the music starting, and hearing ministry leaders literally from all over the world lift praises to the Lord and sing and worship together. It's emotional for me. So if I were to answer your question broadly, the thing that stands out to me is usually every year, and it was no different this past year, that moment for me. From a personal level, just seeing all the pieces fit together. We have a phenomenal team at Randall House and D6 Family Ministry. I get to answer a lot of questions and deal with a lot of details, but it's all possible because of the wonderful team that we have. And
Yeah.
just seeing everybody do what God has equipped them to do, and all those pieces kind of come together, and see lights go on for ministry leaders, and see just God transform ministries and transform ministers. It's just like, I sometimes pinch myself. I think you quoted this to me at D6 this year, that it's in some form of this, and you can correct me. Like, it's not a job when you love to do what you do.
That's right.
Some form of that quote.
Yeah.
And so
if you love what
it's
you do, you'll
amazing.
never go to work any day in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so good, and so I know that's not really a specific answer, but it's just seeing it all just kind of. I text my wife, and then I'm going to ask you a question. I text my wife during that first general session, and I took a picture from the back of the audience, and I said, hey babe, like, this is my year, like, culminated,
Yeah.
like right
Yeah.
here, and it's something special.
It is.
Something special about it. So I'll turn that question to you, because what they may or may not know about you is you get to wear that hat as conference director. You're doing a lot of the main stage. You are kind of casting vision for our team, and really a great leader of our team there on site. And so, from your perspective, as you say in our organization, the little guy in the big chair. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, what's your moment at D6 2023?
Here's the funny thing. You and I did not coordinate this. I know our listeners may or may not believe that, but we just basically said, hey, let's get together and talk through our memories. And I made notes on my phone. So I'm holding up my digital notes, and he's seeing it for the first time. And my very first one, it says, what do I most love? And I said, all the ministry leaders, and I am not referring to the speakers, I'm talking attendees. I could name drop all the churches who send their leaders and their leadership staff to the D6, and it would probably blow away every listener to hear the names of these recognizable churches, but I'm not going to do that. What warms my heart the most, though, are not necessarily the 12 to 15 staff members coming from those iconic churches. It's the 2 to 4 who come from those smaller churches who are beginning to carve out a much more healthy approach to generational discipleship. That gets me fired up. That gets me
so good.
And so, I want to go back and hit what you said a moment ago, because while we've just kind of talked about each other's roles, our team has been doing this a while. We launched D6 Conference back in 2009, and not everybody on our team was there year one, but many were. But everybody on our team now intuitively, based on the culture that we get to be a part of day in and day out at D6 Family Ministry year round, we just love serving people. We literally love sharing discipleship aspects and really helping people come away from their own personal church and do church at our conference and connect with other. I mean, how many times did you connect one leader with another leader? I did the same thing. Like, hey, you got to, Rich, you got to meet this person. Becky, you got to meet this person. We were just connecting people, and that gives me joy too. And our team loves that. We have such a high capacity team.
We do, and we're so blessed in that way. And back in 2009, when the conference launched, I was at that first conference as a ministry leader. I was a youth pastor at the time, and I just remember those days. And you're exactly right. It's the connections with people in different ministry contexts, going at it just like you are, and us now get to be. I like to use that word, like a bridge to kind of connect those ministries. I also love, Ron, in a similar vein, walking through the halls this year at the Marriott there in Orlando and seeing teams of people literally sitting on the floor in a circle with their programs open with notes, just comparing where they've been and where they're going and how the Lord is speaking to them. And even I got a chance a couple times to plop down in those circles with those people and just kind of get to listen and experience.
That's awesome.
And so, man, what a beautiful, beautiful, as tired as we are, when it's over. I just like, man, let's go again. Like, let's go. Like,
It
let
is
me get some rest. Let me get a cherry
Ah.
Coke Zero and let's go.
it is the best tired, to be on the other end of that. I just wished we could just pop our team down and let them stay for like 3 days after the fact recovering. But I'll tell you, this might, let's tease for a moment. We'll talk about this at the end here. But next week, we're going to do another special episode. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to do behind the scenes questions, the 10 most asked questions about what happens behind the scenes at planning and putting on the D6 conference. And so people are turning in these questions. So if you have a question, I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys to email us. Derek, what email address are they sending it to?
They can email it and I will get it, and it'll go to events, like EVENTS, events@randallhouse.com. And we'll get those and we'll compile those. And I'm looking forward to hearing what our D6 audience is interested in knowing about the behind the scenes.
That's right.
So it's going to be fun. That's going to be fun.
So I want to go, right on down that road, because number 2 on my list was the vibe in each breakout room. That's how I list it. When you get to poke your head in and see these gifted speakers, and let's face it, most of our breakout speakers are main stage speakers who are humble enough to say, hey, put me in a room with 30 or 50 or 75 people, whatever that room is. And hey, I just pour into them. And that vibe in that breakout room, when we offer so many options, and I know what people think, they go, oh man, I've been there many times. You guys offer 16, 17 breakout rooms that are happening simultaneously over 6 different hours that I get to pick. It's overwhelming. No, it's really not. It is and it's not. And let me explain this. We try to break this down to where we have 6 specifically designed for student ministry, 6 designed for children's ministry. However, we will confess, we have way more than 6 in generational discipleship and or family ministry models, because that's what our conference is about. And then we'll have various ones that there will be 1 or 2 of, like we had 2 on technology this year and how that affects our teenagers, or how we use social media to impart discipleship opportunities. We do special needs and we do grandparenting, and there's so many different areas. You will not be overwhelmed, but if you happen to be, you just pick the very best 6. If you got more than one person from your church, you divide and conquer, and then huddle up, as Derek talked about, and strategize. But here's the beauty, and I'm going to give you a commercial. This is the only
I was about to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's the only one we're going to give you. I'm going to start it, but here's the deal. I don't know the details, so Derek's going to have to finish it. You can purchase every one of the MP3s and the main stage and go back and share these with your team and your other staff members, or maybe you use these for a parenting class or whatever you wish to use it for. It is a powerful way to equip people for a very inexpensive price. And so you've got that option to do that. And Derek can kind of fill in the details here for how you can get those.
Yeah, we every year record all of those breakouts because we want to make them available to our conference attendees. And you can go to d6family.com to the store. And if you will search D6 2023 Media Vault, you can purchase either the main stage videos and the MP3s as a package deal, or you can just purchase those MP3s. Now, you do need to know, disclaimer here, that because of some contractual things, not all speakers' content appears in those things. And we just want to be clear about that and transparent about that. But I would encourage our listeners, Ron, to do that ASAP, because at a certain point, I believe it's at the end of May, that price will skyrocket. We try to leave it low so that conference attendees can make that purchase.
That's right.
But go do that. And then in June, when they're ready, our wonderful sales team will push those out to our people who pre-ordered. And so, take advantage of that.
That's right. And by the way, when Derek talks about there are speakers who will not allow, let me defend them and tell you how many. Typically, they're 1 to 3 out of the nearly 100 that you're getting in this whole package. And I don't want to make them out to be the bad guy or bad lady. it's typically a contractual obligation between them and their publisher when they're delivering intellectual property content from a book, and their publisher will not allow them. So anyway, that's the reason for that. And honestly, I think there's only one this year, but I could be wrong. Derek probably knows better than I, but I can think of one right off the top of my head where that occurred. And that, But okay, so this year's main stage, we had every year there's a different. Well, to me, it's a puzzle, and everybody talks about it every year. And I can't believe how well these two complement each other. This segment was, and we didn't pull names out of a hat and randomly throw them up there. We put that puzzle together. We're very, very intentional to take our audience on a journey from the launch all the way to the ending. And we always have somebody who delivers what we call the core D6 message in case there's somebody brand new. And based on our polls, we have a decent percentage that are brand new every year. And I'm encouraged by that. That means there's new children's ministry leaders coming in for the very first time, new family pastors. And this year, here's what I wrote for the main stage. And I want to get your take on this, Derek. And I know you can't always get in there because you've got so much going on outside the room. But I wrote, it was hard-hitting yet encouraging. It was the most hard-hitting main stage we've ever had, in my opinion, consistently across all speakers. We had Adam Griffin just laying it out there for what does Deuteronomy 6 look like at home. We had a Messianic rabbi, Rabbi Rosenberg Jake. He just, in hindsight, and Rabbi, if you're listening, I wish you had twice as much time. And I know you wanted that on the front end. And, we're going to have you back and unpack some more in there. And then we had Brian Haynes, who took us on the journey of some real tragedy that happened inside of his family, but in a transferable way that says, we all walk through deserts. How do we survive them? And what does that look like? And then we had Mary Ann, our wonderful host of this podcast. She released her very first book this year, and it's on rest, how to maintain our own personal lives in light of ministry demands that are so prevalent. We had Kelly Mentor just walk us through an encouraging area. And then we had Elisa Childers, who told us to be on guard for progressive Christianity and where it's rearing its head. And then we had Crystal Evans Hurst, who just inspired us in some incredible, wonderful ways. So I don't know if I'm missing anybody, but I think I've walked through where we are.
You yourself, you gave a main stage talk,
as
well as Hillary Morgan Farrer, from Mama Bear Apologetics.
Right.
You spoke true. Like I don't really get to be in there much just because we're typically, our team is off setting up for the next thing or making sure or taking a breath sometimes. But I will tell you where I heard is I talk to attendees, like whether it's in our resource center or in the halls or in breakouts or in the elevator at the hotel or wherever. And I bet you that every other person I talked to was like this. We've been coming to D6 for several years, or we've come 2 or 3 times, and this was the best main stage that D6 has ever had. And that included worship by Michael Boggs and that wonderful team who led us in worship every night. And Ron, honestly, as long as we're talking about main stage, for me, I got the opportunity on Tuesday evening to interview someone we're going to call Han for security reasons.
Yes.
You won't be able to find a video of that interview because for security purposes, we did not video it and it will not be released. But he is a friend of D6, someone that we partner with to take D6 curriculum, and he translates it into languages to use in Eastern Asia, specifically in the underground church. And he literally had to flee his home come to the States. And I got the opportunity to interview him on the main stage and to let the D6 audience hear his story about growing up and how he had grandparents who really raised him in what he said a D6 way. Yeah. And he talked about how his local governments, the links that they go to stop the spread of the gospel, and how he has partnered with us. And we got the opportunity to hear his story and ask people from a development perspective to, hey, when you give to Randall House and D6 Family Ministry, you're not just giving to books and curriculum and conferences and resources and all sorts of things. You're giving to people like Han and that story.
That's right.
And you're just making a huge generational impact literally to the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
And we got the opportunity to pray over him. And what a joy. Like that honestly, Ron, was probably one of the highlights of my ministry. For the last 20 years. It made me put things into perspective that I'm literally sitting beside a guy who had to flee his country because of his faith in Jesus Christ. And it made me put into perspective the things that I get frustrated about.
It does.
But it was just a powerful moment. It was a very powerful moment at the conference, I feel like.
Yeah. So let's finish that story a little bit, because even though he fled his country and he's actually still continuing that ministry. They are still connecting. And here's what their ministry is. They're doing both teaching of people in various churches underground, but they're also spending time developing teachers to be more effective. And that's why the government was very angry with him. So his ministry is continuing. We're trying to help. We've sent numerous packages and digital files in unique, special, secure ways in the past. And I was thinking this through. You and I have not talked about this, Derek, but I think we can, if you call me out on this if I'm wrong, but I'm 100% sure I'm not here. When we ask people to give, we can confidently say 0% of your gifts will go to any salaries inside of our organization, because we sell curriculum, and curriculum pays our salaries, to be very frank with everybody.
That's right.
Curriculum's the biggest component that keeps our organization going. So when people give, it goes 100% back into helping us do ministry, and your partner to do that ministry. So we just need you to know, if you provide a gift to us, 100% of that's going right into ministry.
Well, Ron, to even speak to that, we have some faithful donors who earmark their monthly gifts to help this podcast go forward.
That's right.
To spread it to ministry leaders. And so, I mean, another maybe shameless plug here. Just go to D6 Hero. That's the letter D, the number 6 hero.com. And you can find out how you can join the ranks of our heroes and help support the ministry of D6 Family Ministry and people like Han.
That's right. Well, let me just remind you, next week, we're going to do the 10 behind the scenes questions that you've always wanted to know about putting on the D6 conference, or things that go on. And I'm going to tease one of them in there. I'm going to give you this one. How much does a gallon of lemonade cost to serve people? Tune in next week to find the answer to that question, along with 9 more that are far more relevant than that one, but we know you want to know this, okay? That's it. We look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, we're praying for generational connects, really intentional conversations, and wonderful ways that we get a chance to disciple multiple generations. Take care. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com.